and agriculture.
And at the end of the day, we're going to cover your local news. We're going to be dedicated to agriculture. Ag is such a huge part of our industry. We're obviously, if you're tuning in the radio, you know that. You're going to see that in our news, but then you're also going to see that local sports coverage as well as the local news coverage as well.
Find WHOW 1520 on Facebook, Instagram, and on TikTok.
Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest in studio today, Reagen Tibbs, commercial ag educator at the U of I Extension in Logan, Menard, and Sangamon counties. It's always good to see you, Reagen. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, Seth. How are you?
Doing good. Thanks for asking. Thanks for making time for us. I know you are plugging away through fair season and everything. How's your summer treating you so far?
We're doing pretty good. We've got two of our county fairs down here for us in our office, and so we got one more next week over in Logan County. So then after that, it's State Fair, and then it seems like summer will be over right after that.
No question. Well, a couple of fairs in the books. How have things gone already?
Going pretty well. Weather is held out generally for us. I think obviously it's hot because it's summer, but generally, it's going very well. I think we've got, youth who are getting a lot of valuable experiences. It's been great to see everybody out at the fair. At Menard County, for example, they have a new show arena. So it was great to see folks come there and see that new show arena and just show the appreciation towards the donors who've been put funding toward that and put their support behind that, to see again the support out there for our youth.
As a commercial ag educator, what's your role at the fair?
Whatever kind of help I can provide to our 4-H team. I mean, it's kind of one of those other duties as assigned type responsibilities. Right. And, being someone who was a Logan County 4-H member for as many years as I could, definitely have some type of connection with 4-H. And it's actually interesting. Our 4-H educator, she had just started in the Logan County 4-H office when I was still in 4-H. So
really?
Now we get to work together. So
wow.
It's kind of a nice, circle of life type thing. And
yeah.
So definitely feel a strong connection with the fair, and always happy to help out with 4-H events whenever I can.
And it's kind of all hands on deck for those, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. We want to make sure that we have as many staff there as possible, just because, we're not saying anything's going wrong, but we just want to be there to not only support the youth and support the folks out there, but just make sure everything runs smoothly.
Very good. Now, you mentioned one more fair to go. You've got Logan County Fair coming up next week. What are dates for Logan County Fair?
So it officially will start this upcoming Sunday and then go through to the following Sunday. But I think most of the major events start on Monday and Tuesday in terms of grandstand events. For 4-H, though, we're kind of scattered all over the week. So on Monday will be our general projects show. A little bit different this year. We'll have some folks from both Sangamon and Menard County come up for it. We changed our schedule around. So you'll see some agronomy projects from our other two counties be there, along with a couple other areas. So that'll be Monday morning, kind of end in an early afternoon part. And then after that, you get to see those projects for the rest of the week. And then we'll get to reach out to those kids if they got promoted to as a state fair delegate or alternate. Then Tuesday is our rabbit show. So our first live animal show of the fair. That'll happen Tuesday morning. Wednesday, we have our swine show, and then followed by our goat show in the afternoon. Then Thursday is our beef and sheep shows. So they're both kind of running at the same time. So that's really when we kind of have to be all hands on deck, where we have, someone will be over at the beef show, making sure that's running okay. Someone else is over at the sheep show, making sure that's okay. Plus the support we have in the office to get things going through the rest of the week. And then Thursday is our last kind of official day for 4-H events. And then Sunday is our youth auction. So eligible youth who showed either steers, lambs, or barrows or meat goat wethers get to put one animal in the sale, and we get to raise money for those youth moving forward for their projects.
And that's a pretty big deal, if I remember right.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a lot of support come out from the community, a lot of people who come out and support those youth, and we're able to raise a lot of money for those young folks to help continue with their 4-H careers.
Very good. So put all that on the calendar, and of course of the regular kind of Logan County Fair with the rides and all that stuff. I'm sure families are hitting those up in between the downtimes.
Absolutely. Whether it's rides or even on Wednesday night, we have our 4-H scramble night. So we have our chicken, pig, goat, and steer scrambles, which are kind of a tradition for Logan County Fair. As long as I can remember, we've had those scrambles out there. So hopefully, last couple of years we've had rain that's prevented us from being out on the track where we host the scramble nights. So hopefully this year the rain will hold off and we're actually able to have those out on the track. And again, get to see all the folks who come out to scramble night in the grandstand to support 4-H, a night dedicated to 4-H. It's not just the scrambles. We also honor 4-H seniors who are graduating from our program. So it really is a wonderful night to celebrate youth and 4-H.
And I tell you, I feel like Logan County does a great job of integrating the county fair with the 4-H fair, you know, and making not only the fair goers aware of what's going on, but allowing the 4-Hers to participate in all the other things going on.
Absolutely. Yeah, they do make a very good point about ensuring that our 4-H youth get to be there and have those experiences. Like you said, it's not just a 4-H fair. It's a whole week where we get to celebrate youth and agriculture in our county.
Very good. So again, that kicks off on Sunday, August 2nd, and goes until Sunday, August 9th. What do you like most about Logan County Fair, Reagan?
Ooh, that's a pretty loaded question, Seth. I think for me, it's just, again, getting out and seeing all the folks who I've known basically my entire life. You know, it's kind of the one event where we all get together and we all have a common goal and support each other and support youth. So I think, to me, seeing everybody and seeing how much we support each other is one of the biggest things that I appreciate about the fair.
Is there anything that makes Logan County Fair unique in your mind?
I think for us, you know, being so close to State Fair, I think some people tend to, I mean, I had this gripe when I was showing livestock, you know, it's so close to State Fair that you get home and you have no time to turn around to State Fair. But I think you'll hear judges, if you go to our livestock shows, talk about, you know, the quality that comes to Logan County being that close to State Fair, but we still have that amount of quality that comes through. And so I think, you know, definitely that's another aspect of the fair that sometimes goes a little bit unappreciated.
You going to be at the State Fair this year?
Oh yeah, I'll be down there. We're taking cattle again this year, and I'll be helping out with a couple of different events during the State Fair.
Cool. Very good. So Logan County Fair, put it on the calendar. It comes up next week in Lincoln. Reagen Tibbs, commercial ag educator at the University of Illinois Extension, our guest in studio here for this morning. All right, Reagan, let's talk a little bit agriculture. And I know the summer growing season rolling on. I had a conversation with the National Weather Service. We were kind of talking drought and lack of moisture in before we came on here this morning. National Weather Service started to talk flash drought a little bit. What do you know?
Yeah, definitely. This has been one of the more interesting growing seasons. We had a lot of rain in June, which was really awesome to see and help get these crops a really good start. And then July is one of the driest months of the year. You know, obviously there are some places that have had some pop-up rain showers every here and there. I mean, just on Monday, I was in Petersburg on Monday, and in Petersburg itself, it hardly rained, but you cross the river and go just to the east of Petersburg, and they got a few tenths of rain. So there's just the stark difference of a couple miles really is something interesting. But you're absolutely right. You know, we're looking at those flash drought conditions. The National Drought Monitor, which updates their data every Thursday and publishes it for Illinois in this part of the state, we're not seeing any drought conditions just yet. Now, there might be some local drought conditions, certainly, but in terms of how the Drought Monitor classifies things, we're not seeing any drought conditions. Now, there are other parts of the state which we're seeing drought. For example, up in northern Illinois, kind of in the Rockford area, kind of that along the Wisconsin border, they're seeing some drought conditions. There are parts of southern Illinois which are seeing some, and then also just on the west side of the Illinois River, there's some areas that are seeing drought conditions as well. So hopefully, I think there's some rain in the forecast for tomorrow and over the weekend. So hopefully that gives us just a little bit enough to prevent those flash drought conditions. But definitely seeing some of those conditions setting on, and wouldn't be surprised to see if we get the drought classifications over the next coming days.
Sure. When it comes to crop conditions right now, how are things looking out there?
You know, things are looking pretty well. You know, it's really hard to find a spot that isn't growing very well. I mean, at this point, all the parts that, you know, were flooded or that had a lot of standing water throughout much of June, you know, those parts are flooded out and there's crops that didn't grow in those spots. But in every other spot that I've been seeing, you know, looking at really, really strong growing conditions. The last week or so when we had really, really hot and humid weather, really sticky, those are some of the best conditions for crop diseases we've been seeing. There was an article posted on Monday by Boris Camilletti, who's one of our crop physiologists who focuses on crop diseases. And he talked about that we're starting to see southern rust here in Illinois now. We've had these really hot conditions, really humid, and those are the perfect type of conditions for southern rust and other diseases like tar spot to come in as well. So
where at in Illinois are we seeing this?
It kind of varies different parts of the state. There's some counties here in the central part of the state. I think McLean County is one that has southern rust and tar spot. There are parts of southern Illinois as well, kind of all over the place. The Crop Protection Network does a really good job of putting together a map where you can then filter through different crop diseases and see where they are present at and where they were present at in the previous year as well. That the Crop Protection Network is a group of researchers and crop scientists from around the country who get together and put out information on different crop diseases, different crop conditions, and then what are the best approaches to handling those. And so the maps that they put out and the information and resources they have are really beneficial when it comes to deciding whether or not treatment is needed for those diseases.
I got you. Sure. How have treatment maybe plans changed with the, input costs and everything else going up? How have you seen guys handling this summer?
I mean, I think definitely the conflict in Iran and other general macroeconomic conditions changed kind of our, thoughts on how we applied fungicides and other products. Those type of the economic threshold of when is the best time or when is the best conditions to apply a fungicide definitely changes kind of on a year-to-year basis. I think we've been seeing a lot of area applications. If you're anywhere in the country over the last few weeks, you've been seeing spray planes go over. I mean, I think the other night we had about 4 or 5 of them fly over our farm there in Logan County. So definitely they're continuing to go on. And I think it's, again, about the timing of it, where the crop stage is at, how severe are the disease pressures in the field, and then does it make sense utilizing those kind of economic thresholds that are put out by University of Illinois and other universities to determine if an application is necessary.
What's kind of next for the crop, you think, here, Reagan?
We'll kind of see how August goes. I think if we get a little bit of rain here, kind of beginning of August, it'll kind of help it finish out nicely. Because now we're kind of on that downward slope, right? We're at kind of reaching our peak maturity and our peak in the reproductive part of the growth stages. And so moving forward, now we'll kind of start to see the wind down of it, right? We'll start to see crops dry out. We'll kind of reach that full maturity, and we'll get even a better idea now on yields and where yields will go or where they could be at moving forward for this fall.
Sure. Have you taken a look at any outlooks in terms of whether it's commodity prices or even weather conditions to see what the fall looks like?
I'll tell you, commodity prices have been all over the place lately. I think there were a couple of days ago where both corn and beans were having really strong rally days where we saw our prices for new crop really go up. Then the next day they erased basically all of those gains. So they're really kind of all over the place. I think we're all just kind of in this kind of wait and see period. We're not quite to the point yet where we can fully estimate where our yields are going to be at. Definitely over August, we'll start to see and hear about where yields could be as different parts of the Midwest and other parts of the United States do their kind of yield tours. So once we start hearing that, I think we'll see a lot more movement on commodity markets.
Are you watching, or are there still guys who have crops in the bin? They're still waiting to sell?
There might be some, yes, but I think for the most part, it's bins are empty. And so we're just kind of waiting to see where those crops can be at come this fall.
Gotcha. Very good. You heading out to Farm Progress here in a few weeks?
I won't be heading to Farm Progress, no, but I think we'll have a team from Illinois Extension who will go out because we'll obviously be hosting it next year down there in Decatur. And so we kind of like to go over to Iowa, see how they do their thing and how they put on their displays, and then how can we do it better, honestly, here in Illinois.
Yeah, I hadn't been to Boone before, and so I stopped in at the Iowa State Extension exhibit, and I think it was Extension, maybe not. Anyways, I stopped in at an Iowa State tent thing, and the stuff they're doing is so cool. I mean, you guys are probably doing very similar things, but it's so cool what they're doing.
Absolutely. So, yeah, we'll probably the team who'll go over to Boone for Farm Progress show, kind of see what Iowa State's putting on in their extension booth, and then how can we do better when it comes back here to Decatur next year.
Is there that kind of competition between?
I don't want to say competition, but of course, we got to do things better than our neighbors next door.
I see.
We grow better corn and soybeans. I'm sure people will agree with me on that, but they may not.
Okay, very good. On that note, Reagan, I know we're going to talk a new blog post you're going to put out here on the other side of the break. How do folks find your musings and what you're talking about, what you're doing?
Yeah, they can find us on our website, extension.illinois.edu/LMS, or call our extension office in Lincoln, 217-732-8289.
Fantastic. Reagen Tibbs, commercial ag educator at the U of I Extension in Logan, Menard, and Sangamon counties. My guest in studio. More to come with Reagan on the morning show.
WHOW.
Chevrolet is the heartbeat of America, and now is the time to celebrate our nation's birthday in a new Chevrolet. This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton and Farmer City, inviting you to come see our selection of Chevrolets, like the sporty Chevrolet Trax and the good-looking Trailblazer. We also have a good selection of Chevrolet Equinox and the full-size Traverse. Chevrolet, together let's drive. BaumChevyBuick.com, right from the start.
Don't let a summer sniffle turn into a summer setback. Whether it's a cold cough, rash, scrape, bug bite, or minor injury, Warner Hospital's walk-in clinic has you covered. No appointment necessary. Just walk in and be seen by our caring medical team. Fast, convenient care. Close to home means less time waiting, more time enjoying summer. Warner Hospital Walk-in Clinic. Right here when you need us.
SIU Center for Family Medicine is here to help with back to school and sports physicals. Healthy kids learn better and play harder. Call 217-735-2317 today to schedule your appointment. That's 217-735-2317. SIU Medicine, forward for you.
DeWittDailyNews.com is the area's leading local news source 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the latest local news, obituaries, police blotter, weather forecast, and more with no paywall. Head to DeWittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know.
AgriTalk is the radio talk show for American agriculture. Hi, everybody. I'm Chip Flory, your host. We join you weekday mornings from 10 until 11 on WHOW, on AM and FM, and on the WHOW streams. We provide farmers and ranchers with timely insights and information aimed at improving their operations. Join me, Chip Flory, weekdays at 10:06 on Central Illinois Ag Station, WHOW.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Again, my guest in studio today, Reagen Tibbs, commercial ag educator at U of I Extension in Logan, Menard, and Sangamon counties. Reagen, I mentioned going out at the break. You have a new blog post coming out here today or early next week. What are we writing about these days?
Yeah, so I'll have a new post coming out tomorrow on my blog, Farm Focus, and it's going to talk about how we can use crop conditions and sort of those physical characteristics of a crop to determine and make better fertilizer decisions for moving forward. There's a lot of data and a lot of sensors that we now use with precision ag technologies, and that can really help in making those types of better decisions. But at the end of the day, how can we utilize those physical crop characteristics, those physical conditions on the ground to help guide our decisions and actually ensure that we're doing what is right for our crops moving forward. So the blog post that's going to come out tomorrow is going to focus on 3 different research studies that I found that kind of focus all on this utilizing crop data to make better decisions. One of the studies focused on utilizing tissue sampling of corn stalks to get a better idea of how much nitrogen it was taken up during the growing year, and then what are kind of those ideal replacement rates. A second study that I'm going to focus on looked at variable rate applications for nitrogen in corn. And so with variable rate applications, there are 2 different main sets of data that it uses to come up with a prescription. It utilizes yield maps and yield data from previous years, but also kind of current conditions and utilizing imagery to see where we could be seeing some less nitrogen available in the field.
Okay.
So which one of those, that study looks at which one of those is more valuable when making that prescription for a variable application? Is it the yield data, or is it those current conditions where we could be seeing some lower nitrogen? Then the last study that I'll talk about in the blog post talked about utilizing plant height and drone imagery over satellite imagery and kind of those remote sensors to determine not only plant biomass, but also canopy cover and nutrient and nitrogen uptake for the field. So kind of how can we utilize what the crop is actually telling us out in the field to make those better fertilizer decisions moving forward?
I got to tell you this. I was going towards Mount Pulaski Springfield on 54 a week or 2 ago. And I saw a couple of drones over a field in that area. I think it was just on the other side of the Logan County line. Are you finding drones are becoming more and more utilized? Like, I felt like that was going to be something maybe producers were a little slow to take up on just because of the cost and, the cost benefit and all those things. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think there are definitely pros and cons to utilizing, if we're looking at corn or even soybeans, there are pros and cons to utilizing, spray planes or spray helicopters even versus drones. You can talk about rotor wash and how long it takes to do a field with a drone compared to a plane or a helicopter. I think what's helped a little bit is changing in FAA regulations. So now, before it was one person controlling one drone, one UAV.
Mm-hmm.
But now the FAA has started to allow one person to control swarms, so control multiple drones at a time. And I think that has changed the formula a little bit as well. I think it is just general conditions. Are you able to get access to a spray plane, get in where they can get it on, or is it easier to get it with a drone? So it just kind of depends on those situations and what's easier for a producer to look at.
Sure. Very good. A couple of minutes yet with you, Reagen.
Sure.
Did I miss anything in your blog post you wanted to highlight?
Yeah. So just look at those kind of conditions or those type of characteristics, and then how can we make those better fertilizer decisions moving forward? We've talked about here on the show a couple times, kind of current conditions, macroeconomic conditions are tough to where producers have to make those decisions on fertilizer. So how can we utilize this data to make those better decisions? That's kind of the focus and primary drive of the article.
Very good. Where do they find it?
They go to our blogs posts on Illinois Extension's website, find Farm Focus, and you'll see it first thing there tomorrow morning.
Sounds good. All right, Reagen, let's wrap up. What else has kind of kept you busy? I got about 2 minutes here with you.
Yeah, so I think another thing that you and I have talked about before is kind of what's going on in Washington. A lot is going on in Washington, to say the least. The House Representatives the other day passed a budget reconciliation bill that included about $12 billion in ad hoc farmer relief. And from the way it sounds, most of those $12 billion are going to go towards row crop producers, with some for other different types of specialty crops and forestry and other areas of agriculture. So this is another attempt, if you will, by the House to get a budget reconciliation act moving along, to get some funding moving forward for various areas of the federal government. I think this is the first time we've seen this particular piece attached to one of these reconciliation bills. So now it goes over to the Senate, which has been kind of in a log jam. There are some other pieces of legislation that have held up kind of progress in the Senate on most other things. The House keeps sending things over, and the Senate, in typical Senate fashion, just kind of holds things up. There's a famous saying that the Senate is the saucer that cools the teacup that the House is. So definitely looking to see how those will impact policy decisions moving forward in Washington. Obviously, the war in Iran is still weighing on a lot of legislators out there in Washington. So trying to balance all of those things while also understanding that current conditions, producers need support.
Sure. Very good. Again, Reagen, one more time as we wrap up here for this morning, how do folks find your blog and any other things you're working on there at Extension?
Yeah, again, they can go on our website, extension.illinois.edu/LMS, or they can call our Logan County Extension office at 217-732-8289.
Reagen, always good to see you, my good friend. Thanks for coming out with us. Reagen Tibbs, U of I Extension Commercial Ag Educator in Logan, Menard, and Sangamon Counties. Network News comes your way now.
WHOW.